first. In accordance with South Carolina Code of Laws, 1976, Section 30-4-80D, as amended, notification of meeting and the meeting agenda were posted at least 24 hours prior to the meeting of the County Council. The County Council building, a publicly accessible place on the county website, and a copy of the agenda was provided to the local news media and all persons or organizations requesting notification. Thank you. I'd like to have a pledge of allegiance by Mr. Rosello, by Mr.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for our time to gather together to make decisions on behalf of Jasper County. Give us guidance and wisdom as we enter into these things. And we ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. And just to let you know that Mr. Van Giesen called me this morning at another business engagement that he had to go to. Any discussion on the approval of the agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
You make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Chairman, I'll second.
Any comment? Hearing no comment, all those in favor raise their right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? The motion is passed. Claude Hicks, Beaufort Jasper Housing Authority, Affordable Housing, to discuss purpose, statute authority, operations, funding, results of the Beaufort Jasper Housing Authority. Mr. Hicks.
Are you going to?
I'm going to give you the clicker, and I have a PowerPoint and a PDF.
Okay.
Which one would you
that one have?
PowerPoint?
Sure.
Let's hope it looks good. I'll put it on the slideshow. There you are.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I want to give you a brief update on things that have happened since the last time that we were here, I think either in January or February of this year. A reminder of who we are. We're a regional organization consisting of 8 municipalities in Saloka. Our sole mission is to create and preserve workforce and affordable housing in Beaufort and Jasper counties. We are a 501c3 organization. In your packet is listed the members of the board of directors. We are very happy to announce, you all know that Kamika Benton has joined our board of directors from Jasper County. She's already made contributions. She had her first finance committee meeting last week. She's been assigned to that committee and will be at her first board meeting this week. Why housing matters is still the same issues: economic growth, quality of life, regional collaboration. All three of those are necessary in Beaufort and Jasper counties, considering the massive growth that's happening, the inability for people to find an affordable place to live, and the prospects of costs spiraling and red tape continuing as we move forward. These are the new HUD limits for 2025. If we'll take a look at 100% median family income, that is a family of 4 in Jasper County. The average wage is $78,600 is the area median income. Based on that salary or that income, the maximum monthly affordability without exceeding 30% of their wages would be $1,965. When you consider that 3-bedroom apartments are going for just around $2,900 to $3,000, and the cost of homes, a mortgage payment of $2,000 is almost out of the ballpark for this area. If you take a look at this, what you see widening since the last time we talked is what is called the missing middle. We have homes that are available for very, very wealthy people. We have substandard homes that are available for very, very poor people, only a handful of them. but everybody stuck in the middle is trying to figure out where they can go to be able to afford a place to live. This slide you saw the last time, this remains true. Federal Reserve does a study to look to see how many homes are available to people earning a median income without spending more than 30% of their income. The answer to that for the last 21 years in Beaufort and Jasper County has been 0, and it continues through this year. The development of workforce and affordable housing has to be intentional. It cannot be done through public funds solely. It cannot be done through private funds solely. We're going to have to work together, public-private partnerships. One of the big things that has happened since I was here in January has been the South Carolina legislature decided to remove all earmarks from the budget, which removed about $7 million worth of asks from Beaufort and Jasper Housing Trust and other areas or other nonprofits in the area. Those funds will not be coming this year. We're going to talk with the legislature and Senator Davis about how we get some of those funds through the legislature in the January session. But that was a big issue. There were a lot of developments and a lot of really worthwhile organizations that did not go funded because of that decision. We are still doing what we were doing at our last meeting, which is the creation of workforce and affordable housing, preservation of workforce and affordable housing stock through home repairs, and the creation of new home buyers through home buyer assistance programs. These are the grantees this year that we have worked with to provide housing, to provide home repairs, and to provide first-time home buyers. What have we done since the last time we were here? We created 64 new units in Beaufort, which are senior apartment complex. That will be done in September. We also worked with the county, for Beaufort County, on the purchase by CCDC of 21 existing townhomes in the area, in the unincorporated areas of the county. About halfway through our cycle, we have repaired 40 homes, and we've spent over 50% of the $619,000 we gave to grantees. Organizations that have reported spending funding on home repairs also report they have extremely long waiting lists and continuing need in their service areas. We are, as we mentioned the last time we were here, we're the only entity in Beaufort and Jasper County that is authorized to access the State Home Repair Fund. We have been asked by the state to submit 2 applications for their consideration. They want to just take 2 so that they can make sure that we know what we're doing, that they have control over what is happening during those submissions. We are going to submit 1 from Beaufort County and 1 from Jasper County. We think we've identified 2 that will qualify for the state funds. Once we get through those 2, then the ability to ask for more than 2 at a time will be there. Creation of new homeowners through homebuyer assistance. We're about 40% of our funding has been done, and it's created, I believe, 17 homes for first-time home buyers. What's next? We're going to access, as I said, the trust fund for home repairs. We're adding a part-time employee to monitor our home repair program. He's a former general contractor who will be helping homeowners not only with their repairs, but making sure that contractors do what they said they were going to do. The City of Beaufort has asked us to launch a City of Beaufort home repair program, which should go live within the next 60 days. We are developing an outreach and advocacy committee, which is the 4th committee on our board, specifically to reach out to the community to make sure they know what we're doing, to look for opportunities, not only for funding, but for economic development and economic growth. We're going to complete our first funding cycle for grants by the end of October, 1st of November. At that time, we'll evaluate how everybody did, what the struggles were, what the issues were, where they stand after they've expended all of their grants. We have been developing a process for land donations We're going through the legal requirements to do that. We expect to get that done before the end of the year. And we're working with jurisdictions to identify target areas for development and rehabilitation of workforce and affordable housing. We're looking to the state to try and streamline their home repair application and inspection process. One of the things that we are asking Senator Davis to consider is that the state repair program is funded through fees paid on real estate transactions. We're asking them to give us the pro rata amount that the state has on fees collected from Beaufort and Jasper County so that we can put them to use here without waiting for Columbia to tell us it's okay. Whether we can get that done or not, we don't know, but we're going to ask. We want them to continue to provide low interest mortgages. We want to be able to also fill some of the gaps on construction. Construction of just about anything is coming in with about a 17 to 20% overrun. Those are gaps that have to be funded somehow, some way. We want to continue to revise the qualified allocation plan. Some of you may remember Jasper County has been deemed as the entire county being farmland, and because of that, a developer cannot submit an SRDP program application for state funding, which is a small rental application for a small project. It's forbidden because of state requirements that those funds cannot be used on a farmland district. We are seeking to change that. While Jasper County has a considerable amount of farmland, we also think that it's one of the most rapid growing areas of the state and needs to have access to all the programs within the state. Locally, we're looking to local jurisdictions to drive policy change. We have been in various meetings to talk about how we can eliminate some red tape, how we can make things faster, how we can make it cheaper to build workforce and affordable housing. We want to overcome resistance and build public support. NIMBY is still here. It is still very pervasive in Beaufort and Jasper County. And we want to make sure that we expand infrastructure access and reduce costs throughout all of our programs. One of the things that we are doing is we're facilitating a regional cooperation through a 2025 Solutions Forum, what we call Blueprint for Change. We are bringing together public, private, for-profit, nonprofit entities that develop, fund, build workforce housing, and along with government representatives, planners from the government institutions to sit down with us and talk about what we can do to make things faster, to make things cheaper, and to build more workforce housing as quickly as we possibly can. Thank you for the opportunity to present that update to you. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Marzillo?
When you're building workforce housing, how do you determine what workforce? I mean, it sounds like the people that would be living in there would be people working here. Does it ever happen that it's just being sold for other purposes by someone else? Are we targeting workforce is what I'm saying?
We are targeting workforce on 3 criteria. One is their income. You can't earn $200,000 and live in a workforce apartment. Secondly is the investors in workforce housing make a 30-year commitment to keeping it affordable, so it cannot be flipped. And thirdly, it is exclusively for workforce and affordable housing, so it cannot include market rate unless that is intended on the front end. There are cases where you have market rate mixed in with workforce, but that's a rare occasion. Hilton Head is doing something that is a little different. Their North Point project will be only for people who work on the islands. If you do not work on the island and you do not meet the workforce income criteria, you can't live there. So if you get an apartment there, you got a job on Hilton Head, and you suddenly get a better job in Bluffton, you lose your apartment at Hilton Head. It's a creative way to look at it. It's a unique way to look at it. But Hilton Head has a huge workforce issue. So it's one way to try and tackle the program.
Thank you.
And just a couple of comments. First, thank you all for what you do. I will tell you that workforce or affordable housing, or whatever you want to call it, is something that's near and dear to me, because attracting people to our community to be able to work, thrive, and live is nearly impossible. With a lot of retirees moving into the county, those, whenever they sell and move here, they're able to walk into those type of situations where the younger folks either graduating college or school or trying to go into the workforce, it's a struggle. And I will tell you, with a kid in college and one about to go next year, it's definitely one of those things to where you have to really scratch your head and look at, because even with my day job, it's hard to attract people to the area without good quality, affordable, and it's, like I said, it's one of those things where the market rates are way, way out of proportion in certain areas, in my opinion. But whatever we can do to put our heads together to try to do this, I know it's not a easy route, and it's not a short-term fix, but it's something that's a long-term endeavor, especially if we're going to keep some of the generations here to live, thrive, instead of having to move elsewhere.
I agree 100%. We saw this in the last 12 months when Whole Foods, McDonald's, Burger King, and Panera, all three announced they were closing locations on Hilton Head because they can't find anybody to work. All you have to do is take a look at a lot of restaurants that are no longer open 6 days a week. They're open now 4 days a week. And it's because they cannot get people. They cannot get workers. They cannot get people who can, because primarily they can't afford to live here. Beaufort Memorial Hospital, 30% of their nursing staff is transitional because they cannot find places for them to live. So we understand that's what we're here for. We've made progress in our first year, but we hope that we have a lot more progress as we move forward.
That's all I have.
I'd like to thank you, and I guess I was in the beginning, not in the beginning, but at the tail end of Sloco putting this together. Question is, the big discussion, one of the discussion was that you had Hilton Head, you had Beaufort, and you had Bluffton, and you had Jasper. And there was such a disparity between them. Does that affect you, or how does that work now? And there was a question of, Hilton Head had something entirely different than Jasper would. How has that happened? Or how is that going on?
So what we've tried to do is form a plan that everybody can sign on to. A recognition that it's an economic development issue. Everybody agrees with that. Exactly what, Vice Chairman Rowell said. There is nowhere to live. And if workers can't find a place to live, they go to where jobs are, where they can find a place to live. They don't stay. So what we're doing is we're looking at how do we take these 8 regions and figure out what they need, because Jasper County needs something different than Hilton Head needs. Jasper County is every developer that walks in my office, and they walk in weekly, asks about Jasper County, asks about whether there are cheaper land prices, asks about whether there is a migration towards Jasper County because people can't afford to live in Hilton Head, can't afford to live in Beaufort, can't afford to live in Bluffton. And the answer to that is yes. How we manage that and how you all manage that is recognized by the other members as being unique to you. I mean, Jasper County, if somebody walks in and says, I think I found a piece of land. My first question is, do you have water and sewer? Do you have access? Do you have infrastructure? Those are the things that everybody's talking about now, especially water and sewer, as prohibitive to development in the future, because either you don't have capacity or you hadn't prepared correctly for it, or it costs so much that it kills the development. We had just last week, Carrington Manor experienced overruns from both Dominion and from the Water and Sewer Authority to the tune of about $400,000. And it was because they can charge whatever they want. They can, if you want access, you pay for that access. They ended up having to go around their elbow to get electrical power in because they didn't want to disturb a tree. So it cost an additional $275,000 to go around their elbow. So those are the things that we're trying to help with. By and large, and we're seeing this in Jasper County, we're seeing it in Hilton Head, we're seeing it everywhere. Home repair is the #1 reason people pick up the phone and call us. There is no avenue for home repair. There is no place that people can go if they need help. But the needs for home repair are dramatic. I went last Thursday and looked at a home here in Jasper County. That homeowner has she lives off of Social Security and a small retirement. She has no other way but to come to somebody like us to try and help her get her home repaired. So we're going to hopefully put her through the state program that will allow us to go up to $75,000 in funding for her home. It will be a grant. She won't have to pay it back. It will not go on as a mortgage or a deed. So it is a way for us, even if it's one deal at a time. And what we are saying is, in home repair, give us the money. Why is the money stuck in Columbia? Year before last, with $22 million in the bank, they did one ramp and one roof for the year. Then politicians got into it and begged and yelled and screamed and jumped up and down about why this money wasn't being allocated. They did better the next year. But what we're saying is if our real estate transactions are paying for, call it $5 million of that fund, send the $5 million here. We can certainly get it out into the marketplace faster than you can from Columbia. But it's those kinds of things. By and large, Mr. Chairman, everybody has worked very well on understanding those 3 platforms are existent in all the regions, everybody. So it's worked well. I told Senator Davis, I've been doing this a long time, getting one entity to do something is a minor miracle. Getting 8 to work together and to agree on something, on anything, is extraordinary. And I told Senator Davis the region should be applauded. And you should go to Columbia and say, this is the way it's supposed to work. Everybody who looks and says, we have an issue, we don't know how to approach it, but let's come together and we can figure it out from there. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to working with everybody. We've got some great board members. We've got some great municipal elected officials and staff. So I think the future looks very bright.
Just an observation. I go to an organization called FIT. We just started funding. And Deep Well does a lot. Deep Well is one of the few that we get. United Way is another one that has a repair program. And ELCOG also has it. And our problem is in Jasper, Deep Well will only go up to maybe Ridgeland because they don't have an engineer. I think we can get people to volunteer. To spend their money, they have to have an engineer look at the building and say, are we going to put a new roof on to a house that's not going to last for more than a year? Brand new roof, 40 years. So I think that would be a good place to start, is finding an engineer that lives around here that can volunteer and up there. 2 is, what is the situation with the ACACs? ACACs now will give you 15% of the workforce housing. How does that work with you? Is that part of you, or how does that work? Are you familiar with that?
I am very familiar with it. The governing bodies over the ATACs determine where those monies are going to go. As of yet, we have not received any of those funds.
Have you applied?
We know that we've been designated under just a term workforce and affordable housing, but there's been no application for affordable housing. The applications have been for the tourism portion of the A-tax. So we expect in the next order that we will see that application will certainly apply.
What would the application for, just an example?
So it's straight up funding. So the total allocation for Beaufort County, the total portion of A-tax set aside for workforce housing is $300,000. So we would apply either on a project basis or straight up on a funding basis to see if that qualifies. We're waiting for what the rules actually are. And there's been a lot of discussion, and they did a lot of reworking to figure out what that is. But as soon as the application is available for workforce housing, we'll certainly apply.
Beaufort County only has $320,000 available?
$300,000 is the allocation.
Really?
Yes.
That's not 15% of their A-tax, is it? It's 15% of the A-tax can be used there. If you look at ours availability, 15% is $320,000 myself.
Yeah, it's 15% of the 3% collected.
Right. So we have $2 million in ours.
I think Beaufort, I may be
it doesn't
incorrect.
matter. It doesn't matter, but I think there's a wealth of money there that can be added.
I think there is too. I know that Hilton Head voted not to use any of their A-tax on affordable or workforce housing, primarily because they were funding through another mechanism internally. But I will double check with the county to make sure, and I'll report back to you. But as far as I know, that $300,000 is still sitting there.
Well, maybe that's what they allocated,
Yeah.
not what they
Right.
the volume or the amount, most of it. Yeah. So I really do. I've been with FIT for 5 years, 6 years now, and they bring in a lot of money into Jasper County. I think $50,000-$60,000 at least a year just in home repair. And with you being there, it'd be a lot more.
Well,
I just want to let you know that when we're talking about the Deep Well project, Deep Well has established a third crew and hired a new foreman to work, especially in Jasper County, because the need is so great in this area. So we talk routinely with the director at the Deep Well. So they are ramping up activities to move more resources and more work to Jasper County. So that is in the works, and we expect to see a lot more activity here.
Yeah, I
from
think
Deep
because
Well.
they've always been talking about that it's the 3, I think they can only commute for 2 hours. They're volunteers for 2 hours.
Yes.
By the time they get out of Hilton Head, here, it really, Beaufort, Hardyville, and maybe part of Ridgeland is the extent of what they can do.
But Deep Well was one of our grantees this year. So we gave them their money. They used it almost
Yeah, they
immediately.
loved you. They loved you for it, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. And then they came back to us and said, can we apply again? And we said, most certainly they could, as soon as we figure out when we'll have another round. To be perfectly candid, what the legislature did hurt us in our ability to have another round this year. Not saying whether it was right or wrong, but that was a surprise. It was also a surprise to a lot of developers that had money put in there by Senator Davis. So we're happy to have firms like Deep Well. They do wonderful work. And we're glad we can provide them with a little bit of funding.
Yeah, so you guys do a lot, I think. I agree. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your indulgence in us talk to us.
Sure.
Do a good job, as you always do.
Thank you very much.
Discussion of the Ridgeland Flood Dean runway length justification study. Mr. Fulber.
Mr. Chairman, we've had a couple of inquiries about that study and what the council's intention is to do with that study, if anything. I'll remind you that the previous council was interested in evaluating the airport through a runway length analysis to determine the ultimate length for the airport's sole and primary runway. In October of 2023, staff worked with the consulting firm, Holt Consulting Company, or consulting engineers for the airport, to work up a work authorization number 23. Professional services between Holt and the county to identify the scope of services to conduct a runway length justification study. The cost of that study, $240,806. Staff then worked with the Department of Commerce. Department of Commerce offered a $160,000 grant to assist that with that project. And we also got pledged with some private funding from Convery Golf Partners LLC in the amount of $80,000. So county left there with $806 towards that effort. As you know, it was commissioned in January of 2024, completed in March of 2025, and then they most recently presented sort of a summary of the results to you at a workshop on April the 7th of this year. And so I know Mr. Kemp has received a letter from the Secretary of Commerce, probably a letter from the Director of the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. The state has money in this, and they would like to see you submit it to the FAA for review and their comments and their consideration. So would Convery, because they have money in it. So I'm here just to let you know that, and to let you know that the council needs to take some sort of action on that. We have the fortunate opportunity to talk about this with the Airport Commission. I think this Wednesday. All right. And so we can garner a recommendation from them as well. But the funders primarily are looking for an answer from you. The process would be, if you didn't want to do it, we would relay that to them. If you did want to submit it to the FAA, there would be no financial obligation associated with that, and that would close the loop on the study. So happy to answer any questions that you have, but Mr. Kemp and I spoke about this a few days ago. We were doing the agenda prep, so we did put a placeholder as a resolution on your June 16th meeting. Whether you want to do that or not, pull it off, up or down, it's your choice, but happy to answer any questions that you have here with our collective knowledge. Also, I think Mr. Kemp is probably important to recognize we have Mr. Richard Dean and Mr. Baylor O'Kane, members of the Airport Commission, here with us.
The reason I put this on the agenda this way is we had postponed this because we wanted the Airport Commission to give us guidance on what we could do. And this was part of it, I guess. So, would the Vice Chairman of the Commission like to talk? I know you haven't met yet about this, but I'm sure you're aware of it.
I'll be very brief. We're happy to talk about it, and any additional information you can pass along to us. We were present for the presentation. We'd like to know how much the county would be on the hook for should the FAA fund and the state fund their shares of it. Any of that information be passed on to us would help us make a decision.
If I may, Richard, the process is it's a justification study. It's a request, and the FAA may review it and may say that it's justified for the additional length. And I'll fail to mention the lengths. Currently at 4,200 correct feet, and this was proposed to go to 5,400.
64?
54. 54. And so the FAA would review it, and then they would decide whether it was justified to go longer or not. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, they would then, I guess, tell you whether they'd be interested in partnering in the funding of that. Those things we won't know until it's made.
Mr. Orsillo.
Forwarding that to the FAA, it's not a yay or an A or anything. It's just getting people that spent the money something for the money.
Yes, sir. I think you know, you won't know what it costs to you if it's justified and you bid it. But to Mr. Dean's question, you won't know what they're willing to put into it, if anything, until you submit it.
So sending it to the FAA, are we going to keep incurring costs? I think you said $240,000 for the study so far. We will continue to incur costs after we forward that to.
No, sir.
So it's paid for. The 240 is not going to increase.
Paid
by
for.
sending it to
We
the
probably
FAA.
need to follow up on the reimbursements from the state and the Concrete Club. But yes, sir, no further costs associated with the review of it and the information from the FAA. So I would, you know, draft a resolution that if you were inclined to do it, you would direct me to submit it, recognizing there was no financial obligation associated with that, and then you would further direct me to distribute whatever review the FAA did, both to the Airport Commission and the County Council.
I would be fine with that myself.
Mr. Rao.
Councilman Orzo already asked one of the questions I had, or kind of with the justification. So it goes to them, and once they say yea or nay, whether it's favorable, then the next step would be determining how, well, basically we know how long it would go. 5,400 would be their determination if we went down that route, but there would be other costs associated with it. And I would assume that there would be FAA match and a county to supplement the other half of that. Is that basically how that flow is working?
I'll tell you my experience from the first time we did it. Yes, sir. That they would basically tell you whether it was justified or something other than that was justified, or that it wasn't justified. And in the event that it is justified or a lengthening is justified, they would tell you whether they are willing to participate in the project and to what extent.
My intuition tells me that once it goes to them, the chances probably would be favorable for the lengthening. However, the return on investment and the cost to the taxpayer, we would need to know what that would be, and I just don't know where we are with that now.
I was just going to say, generally, in the past, other FAA grants have been 90%. They've funded 90%. South Carolina Aeronautics, in some cases, has funded 5%, so that the county's portion was 5%. And that's generally the way I've seen it happen. I don't know if it would be the same.
That was the funding scenario on the original.
And then the operational cost falls back on the county.
Yes, sir. You would have, if you were inclined to do that, you would have plenty of time to beat that up and decide whether you wanted to take another one.
That's all I have for right now.
When we built the runway, the original runway, I think we participated in 5%. Was that what it? What was that dollar amount?
Mr. Lucas, you know offhand?
Just that round.
1.5.
1.5.
Okay, that's all.
Just see.
That's all I have. I guess my attention, if you go back to the study, when we had the workshop, that's still my opinion. But did we ever get that study written?
You had a presentation of the study. You didn't.
We had a presentation.
The study
about the
is
study.
It's just data, but we'll get that for you. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm sure the study has an executive summary
Yes.
with something like that. So
Yes, sir.
if you give an executive summary,
I think Mr. Lucas may have it. We may have it in our files, but I don't have a hard copy. But I will get that for you.
anything else?
I don't have anything on right now.
It's a number. Oh my goodness.
Now, the
biggest
FY
one.
budget. This was put in there as a placeholder in case you had any questions. Mr. Marzil, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Rao? Sure you do.
I have a couple things as I've kind of mustered through. And we're having another workshop on the 11th, is that correct? And we'll be able to bring some other things up then?
Yes, sir. The 11th, and then of course the 12th. We're having an unrelated executive session, and then the following one would be The
The
16th.
16th.
16th, yes, ma'am. I do have some suggestions. I have looked at some different things throughout the whole budget, and again, I've sent some questions and got some responses back. I do think that there are some things that I would like to see in the budget. Maybe I can talk about those on the 11th and try to figure that out. But I do have some ideas to maybe help streamline some things for the future. But I'll have those on the 11th as whenever we have that meeting, so I can make sure that I've dotted all my I's and crossed all my T's. That's it.
I got my questions returned. And then I just a clarification, I guess, I just started going over it. The light green is my reduction, blue is increased, and light blue is staff.
Well, the light blue could be an increase, light blue is staff. It could be an increase or a decrease. So it's, I think in some cases, some of the numbers were reversed, like you recommended decreasing the business license to 12,000, reducing it by 38 to 12,000. Well, 38 is what we've already spent this year and what we've spent the prior year. So I reversed that and and also said in that case that staff would recommend decreasing that one at all. But, so that was sort of staff's recommendation on all the light blue. There are a couple of increases, about 3, resulting from additional review of, there's the food service contract, which when that was put into the budget, we just received an addendum which will be coming to you on the 16th, and that is about another $50,000, that because of it's a per meal, they've had a 3.8% increase in the meals, plus we're over. They charge us for a base amount, and then anything over that. So just the number of meals has increased that. We're already at like 412,000 without the June bill, which has been averaging about 50 to 55,000 per month. So the 470 is a more appropriate amount than what we originally had in the budget for that.
Well, these are my suggestions. So how do we proceed? Do we, at our 11th meeting, do we have to go over each one, or how do we do that?
Mr. Kemp, it gets pretty messy when you have individual questions about it. As long as you get the feedback back from us for your questions, and then you can decide whether you want to move forward with whatever you want to propose. But you're going to have to eventually have a list of proposed changes that you'll have to, of course, adopt by motion.
Because most of this, my suggestions were not to take it away, just put it into another fund, so when it came up to adjust.
How that will work. You want just a separate line item that says?
Well, it's a line item. I'm not a maven in budget, but for example, if I reduced, let's see, I had one where it was 265,000. I reduced it to, I asked them to reduce it to 105. The $160,000 would not go away. It would just go into a fund, a different fund. So we could use it for, if it's not being used for one place, we can put it to another place. It's more of an ongoing thing rather than be static and have it in.
I'm not sure. I don't think that's.
Let's try to work on that. I know what you're saying.
I'm not trying. It's just that we have so much to do.
Yes, sir.
And it's forecasting, and sometimes forecasting doesn't happen, and we can either say, okay, we need this more desperate than we need this, and we don't know that yet. That's my.
I'm not sure.
Well, let me say, just offhand, hand, it's much better than cutting the amount. Because,
I don't want to cut the amount, I just want to
Right.
move it.
I'm just saying it's better than that because, as you know, if you don't spend a line item, it becomes an addition to your fund balance, right? So we don't artificially inflate anything, but if we're disciplined and we don't spend, that's even a bigger boost to your fund balance. And so I appreciate that you don't want to make all the cuts. You want to just have it in another place to get another look at it before you move forward. I'm just not sure mechanically how we do that, but we will work on that for you.
Because, again, we don't know during the middle of the year or a year, like 6 months from now, that maybe something comes up, that we can postpone one thing, put it to another. Who knows?
Is that like a contingency?
I
Or is
think-
that what you're thinking of?
I think-
It's not
Contingency line?
I don't know the word. I don't like contingency because that doesn't look good. But I guess it is a contingency, or it's a working fund, just a working fund, right?
I think what Mr. Kemp is saying is going back to what we said before. Everything that's in our budget is budgeted for at the end of the year, right? And so if we're doing things during the middle of the year, we need to know where that money's coming from. And the way it's set up, I'm understanding, is we have monies in accounts that may not be used, they're in lines on different places, and we draw from them. But I think what he's saying is pool those things and put them into one fund so we actually know what we're spending. When we were asked to write a check for something that come in the middle of the year, we know where it's coming from, because right now, it's coming out of this department or that department or the other department that didn't spend all the money and would have gone to a fund balance, but we don't know what the fund balance is from our perspective. I think is that what you're trying to say?
Kind of. We just have just because people forecast things, and we want the actual spend. If you have something that you anticipate and it doesn't happen, we're stuck with that, kind of stuck with that money to move it around. So I'm just saying we put in, and then we know at the end of the year, we're always looking to increase our general fund, right?
Your fund balance.
Right, my fund balance. So this gives us an idea of, hey, we have, do we increase the fund balance or do we do it for something that we need? I mean, we have that decision to make.
A question. What is our fund balance today?
So, I didn't bring it. It's around, I can't even remember, it's in the, is it 17 million? 9 million of it is basically reserve, which is what the cash carry forward was from that year, from last year into this year. No, let's see, oh, that is it. The cover looked different.
Yeah, it's a different cover. While she looks for that, we'll have to have some discussion, Mr. Kemp, about that because you want to be spending at the highest level of detail that you can so you can track exactly where the expenditures come from. I could see if you wanted to have perhaps something for just capital or something like that you could dip into, but I'm just not quite sure mechanically how we can do that from a county basis. We will talk about it and see if we can accommodate that for you.
The fund balance as of the end of last year was $20,698,209. Of that amount, nearly $10 million, $9,817,000 is assigned, meaning that was the amount that we carried forward from cash carry forward into the fiscal year 2025 budget. The unassigned portion is $8,387,000, and then there's some other amounts that are non-spendable and or restricted. So the total general fund is $20,698,000. But if that assigned were not 9.8 million, it would fall. Some portion of it would fall into that unassigned, which would make it which would make it nearly 17 million.
So when we talk about the putting a 6-month contingency, whatever the wording we're doing for the day, are we saying that 10 million, which is not assigned, would you call that part of your contingency fund?
No, sir, that's fund balance. So that's basically,
Aside from wording and semantics and all that, is that money available for emergency?
When we come before you with a budget, with a request for an expenditure for which there isn't a budget line item, we very often ask or tell you that we plan to use the cash carry forward, which is that fund balance. So that's where we plan for it to come. The budget ordinance also allows for the county administrator to move funds within the budget as he determines is necessary. So that is in the ordinance, which allows him to adjust from one line item to another.
And the reason I draw down on that is because when we talk about building up that account, it sounds like we already have that account or something
We do.
that in essence is that account.
Yes, sir, we do, but the issue is, in prior years, that unassigned portion, which is about $8 million now, we didn't have that assigned not nearly $10 million in the assigned. So that, the unassigned was approximately 50% of our expenditures rather than 35% or 30%. So we'd like to build that line item back. But it's just like when you make a plan, you make a budget, you anticipate you're gonna have this much revenue, you're gonna spend this much, and okay, I'm gonna have a shortfall, so I'm going to borrow from my savings account. Well, if you either have more revenue than you anticipated, or you spend less, you don't have to borrow from your savings, and in fact, you might be able to put some more away into the savings. So that's where, at the end of the year, when we haven't spent all that we budgeted, that amount, that's basically net income, for if you're in the business world, net income or net loss, but net income will flow into your fund balance or your savings account. So that builds it right there.
Yeah, I think that moving forward operationally, I don't think we need to rely on fund balance as much being a cushion there. I think we need to have realistic budgeting, and then if we have to dip into that, we dip into it for true emergencies, contingency funds, whatever they may mean, inclement weather, things of that. I know it's a hard thing to do, but we're not flush with cash, but we want to make sure that that cash we're investing it, we get a return on that investment and be able to have something liquid that we can utilize in the case of a true emergency. Is that kind of what the council feels?
That's what I'm trying to say.
But we have to have a balanced budget.
Right.
I understand, we'll have a balanced budget, it's just the way we handle the money, that's what we're saying.
Theoretically, let's walk through, Mr. Kemp, say that you have 4 or 5 of these things, you have them by department, okay? Plus or minus, you think this, she answers back, we gotta have this, and you end up with a $15,000 difference, or what you see as a potential savings, right? So what you'd like to do is I'm talking about the detention center. You would like to have a line item in the detention center that was a contingency. And then as we spent, if in fact we needed to dip into that, we perhaps have to code and come to you and say, hey, we'll have to dip into the contingency to pay for X. That's what you're.
That's essentially, what I'm trying to do is say, sometimes we have a bunch of money. For example, I'll give you an example that I'm just going to bring up later. In our budget, we have 2, I think 3 places where we have septic. Right? Each line, each department has a septic. They want septic, right?
Or repairs to it, yes.
Repairs,
Or
whatever, okay? Maybe, how do you, when you do a septic, if we have 3 of them, maybe we would be able to, we do it separately now, so the Parks and Rec doesn't want their septic, I forget the other one.
So we
the fire department does their septic. Well,
we can procure it together.
Yeah, we can procure it
We
together.
can procure it together, but each department would take their share of the cost.
A great example is.
I understand, but we don't know that. We can't see that. That's why if you went right from the very beginning, what we said was we wanted line item, so we can see that. We don't see that.
So you could see that it would be administratively difficult, if not impossible, to put every single line item in like a septic project. We have separate projects. So we can identify, you got a copy of that. If you want to see those, we can provide those on a monthly or quarterly basis, which would give you what you're looking for.
Whereas
But to put it on a separate line item, it would be extremely
Well,
difficult
I'll tell you
to
the truth.
administer.
how do you separate the money? You code it, correct?
That's right.
You code it.
Right.
So all I'm saying is what you're doing now, incorporate it into the budget. You do it one time, now you're doing it twice.
It goes
If I'm not mistaken.
it goes to the line item, whichever line item. It might go to 077 37 52 capital outlay, whatever that account is. It goes to that, but we also code it to a project. So it's only coded once to the line item and to the project. So each project is identified separately. We accumulate all of the costs in there. We know who the vendors are. We know everything about it. We're doing it. You're just not seeing it because you're not getting the project reports. If you want the project reports, we can provide it.
We provided a sampling of those at your last meeting, I think, project reports, which is essentially your capital improvement budget, which we're going to talk about once we get through this operating budget. But I think you'll see some of that then, Mr. Kemp. A great example of that was you remember the paving of the Levy parking lot, right? And that was, I think, what he's talking about, because that was bid out prior to your time, by the way.
Right.
I think it was bid out individually, and of course there was not any interest in it because it was such a small project. So now Jim Iwaniki is putting together all of the paving projects, roads, parking lots, all that as one, and pushing it out. So what you need to see, it's all in here under each department, and the reason accounting-wise to do that is to be as meticulous as you can of coding everything you can to the highest degree possible without that you can physically handle.
Right.
But you would see a list of road projects that you would approve, on a one-page thing. Here are the road projects. Here are all the roof projects we have going on. Here's this. This is like getting into the software where the money is, right? It's like getting into the bank account, which is not necessarily what you need to be doing because it'll drive you crazy with that much detail. So we're going to get to a more popular budget. We've talked about that, to where you can see it more graphically, and those items will be grouped together, Mr. Kemp, so you won't think that they're just all over the budget. They are all over the budget financially.
But in a project, they're together.
But in the project, they're together.
I understand. What I'm saying is, most of our problem with the budget is when we get something that says sustain or no support, or we get a whole bunch of projects, no dollar amount, so we have no decision. Actually, the decision should be, we're going to do everything or do nothing. And that's not what we should be doing. We should be doing essentially, however we do it, line item. It doesn't have to be in here, I guess, but we have to know, or in budgeting, we have to have some support to say, this is what's going to be the cost, this is what's going to be the cost, this is what's going to be the cost. Then we have to talk to the department head, or wherever it is, right, and say, what's your number one, what's your number two, and what's your number three. Now, we're pretty well right now because we're starting to get more revenue in, right? But we have to be cautious with our money. We have to be knowing where our money comes from, because you hear one side of it, and we hear the other side. And if information is power, both ways. If we don't have the information that you're not providing to us. Now, I think in this next year, we've all recognized that quarterly, at least quarterly, we're going to do a budget review, saying this is where we are, this is what we're doing, how do we have to change it, do we change it, is there money not being spent that should have been spent, or is there money that is not going to be spent and we can move it around to put it to someplace that can be spent.
I think, Mr. Kemp, I think it's going to be a great experience when we get into some of the strategic planning talk we talked about, because you'll see by department the major projects. Everyone will know what they are, regardless of where they are in the budget. And then we'll give you those budget reports once they become a project, and you'll be able to track those. I think that will help you tremendously, and you'll be able to show the public, too, of the projects that are working. in each of the departments and what you have to look forward to. And that way we can be measured by what we accomplish as far as projects. But the operational stuff is not quite as fun, right? It's pretty methodical as far as like the meals you pay for at the detention center and all those kind of things. That's pretty formulaic. But the capital projects, I think you'll have a lot of fun in looking at those. I mean, a great example is the Hardyville drainage project. Church Road project. I know, Mr. Kemp, you may have some awareness of it. Mr. Rao, you may because you work in that area. Mr. Arzillo, you've probably driven through some of that stuff. But no one really knows that's happening. It's a multi-million-dollar project over multiple years that included the demolition of over 30 structures, right? It's a major project that didn't get a whole lot of press, didn't get a whole lot of excitement because it's a project in our budget, right? So the more we promote those, I think you'll have a better sense of the control of those, and you'll also be able to promote more of what you're doing.
Well, I've always told Hardyville, when I was working down there or was more involved down there, that when they do a project, they should have a sign up there. This is your taxpayers' work, and then, you know, you're required, certain government are required, governmental bonds or whatever, grants are requiring that you have a sign. We should have a sign for ourselves.
That's correct, and you're correct. That is a partial CDBG project, also a rural infrastructure authority project, and they do require some signage. And Mr. Kemp, hold that thought when we get into the transportation sales tax, because we want to also be sure that the contractors are required to put up signs showing that that's the transportation sales tax dollars worth.
And one other question before we...
I'd like to hear Sandy whenever you get done.
You have on one of it, and I wasn't prepared to do a deep dive, but
Yes, sir.
Exit 33, you have a budget, and somebody has a budget for Exit 33.
We put some money in there for beautification, for a monument sign, to maintain the landscaping, grass in there, and yes, we
And
do.
that was
And
supposed to
that's
be
funded with a tax fund.
Right, but you don't have the 8 tax funding up in the revenue.
Yes, sir, we do,
Where?
in that same department.
Okay. So it should be on revenue.
They should offset. It would say if it's 200,000, it would be 200,000 revenue, 200,000 special projects.
And that's been going on for a couple of years, hasn't
Yes,
it?
sir.
33?
Yes, sir. And they've been, Mr. Lucas was involved in that. You know, you may remember several years ago, it was full of trees, and they had to work with the DOT and take those down so that it's nice and smooth. The hoteliers wanted that so they had visibility.
Are we going to lose that funding? Do we lose that funding? I said every 2 years, isn't it every 2 years? We can only keep the
That's
money
the
for 2 years?
state, this is local, I believe, state money. If we don't spend it, we lose it, but I believe this is coming through our loan.
And
So-
you don't lose it. You come back and ask for additional projects. She
So,
tries to
and we're
track that.
gonna, whenever we have, I would like to request that we talk about the local accommodations tax, maybe at the Wednesday meeting at some point. So I can explain some of our thought processes with what, we're gonna make some recommendations to you, and also that there's some surplus funding, so we can potentially do something with that as well. So the council will need to look at that.
That brings up, I know we're going off budget, but the 8 tax, I think I was reading that whole big thing, and one of them gave us what you give out, which is comprehensive, what you have to do and all that. But I think we should look at it for affordable housing, just what that's required.
Okay.
I have
That's-
to do that for the
That's an
order.
ongoing thing, I think.
Yes.
Well, you'd have to adopt that,
I think we have to
as a
adopt it.
local law, that would be your policy. But Mr. Kemp, I think I can share also that we've had some good discussion about, you know, part of the A-tax is paying the county's match on the airport grant, which was a $2.5 million grant, and that's going very well. And so we can fund county projects that are A-tax eligible. And I know you have, and I have also had some conversations with our Parks and Rec director that it would be a good thing to do. And you can even use that money to bond it out or borrow against, and so make an annual payment and get some big dollars up front to do a project or two. So we want to explore that too.
A lot of things happen. Mr. Orzillo.
So Andy, you know, we talked about one time when we were voting on something, and I said, I looked at you and I said, I looked at y'all to make sure we have the money. You know, if I'm voting on something, I don't want to vote on something and not know the money. And that's what I'm kind of talking about is where, you know, when the budget's done, I want to see what we have, because we know that everything that comes in is allocated. And so this is coming from somewhere else. And that's why I'm asking all these questions about this money. I just want to be able to see it so that I can vote on something and have an idea if I can or not.
Yes, sir, and I think once you get the full loop of the budget process, which you're enduring the pain of now, but when you get through the annual audit, that's another great education piece, because then you'll see this is what we thought we were going to spend, this is what we amended, and you'll see each department, whether they were in line, over, or under, all that kind of thing. And I think I think you'll be excited by that.
Thank you.
Is there any other thing?
No, I anticipate I'll probably send something this afternoon with some of the information we got over the weekend with some questions that I have, so that way we'll be prepared. And what time is that meeting on Wednesday?
I think it's 10.
Hold on just one second, there's so many meetings going on here.
Or is it Wednesday?
I know, I'm so confused right now.
Yes, Wednesday the 11th is at 10 a.m.
Okay.
Yes, sir, 10 a.m.
Is
And
that
I'll
the school-
update
is that the
this.
school board?
Yes, sir.
Do you think, is the school board going to give us a budget beforehand, or is anything beforehand?
I will reach out to Mr. Zimmerman, and see if he can provide something before then.
That would be nice.
Couple days, I mean,
That would-
tomorrow?
Today?
We can't vote on it if we don't
I'll
have
see
it.
what I
Right,
can
and-
get.
I mean, I'll make that clear. I don't know how you vote on it if you don't have it.
And again, that's one thing I know with all the budget, and it makes it challenging whenever we get something the day before, the morning of, to really take a deep dive. And my inclination is to say, let's hold off for a no. I would like to try to get things a little bit more in advance. And I know there's certain times you can't within reason, but any time we could would be great.
Well, we are, thank you, noted, and we're doing the best we can. I know that Ms. Burgess is working the weekends in June, as do I, some, a little bit, too, yesterday, and David as well. But I did want to say there was one item that I promised to get them, and that was the salary information. Are you still working on that?
We got
We
that.
got it.
Last night, I believe.
I think it was Saturday.
Saturday night, they all run
It was
together.
Saturday night, and then I sent something else
All right,
yesterday.
well, thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. I don't have anything else on my list, but again, if you need anything, we will generate it for you.
I just want to say that this year, we've had more workshops on the budget than the last 3 years combined, I would think.
Yes, sir, no question about it.
And we've done things, we haven't even done anything about usually before the meeting, we'd always have people come up like the baseball team and all that. That's not even there anymore, so it's all working.
Do you want to tell them what you currently have budgeted in that regard?
Well, currently, what's budgeted in those appropriation line items is what was budgeted last year. So and we are getting questions from some of the agencies if they will need to make any sort of presentation to you. So if you have any guidance that you'd like to offer on the 11th as far as what you'd like to do with that.
I'm going to get with Councilman Orzillo between
Okay.
now and then. We've talked a little bit, but there's been some last minute requests that have come in.
I believe, yes.
And
I think is it one or two?
I think there's one, and then there's another that I don't know if they were requesting to us for ATAX, but I think they went the wrong way. I have to go back and look at that.
I think there's one that is in ATEX, but they also had requested, for the first time, some appropriation from the county. So we have that. And then there's a couple that, at least one that asks every year, but they have not been appropriated any funds. So, and they are not in this budget, that particular organization. And if you want a hard copy of the response to Mr. Kemp's questions, I have that if you want.
I've already scanned it.
Okay.
You have a copy of all the requests?
Yes.
Mr. Kemp, you were saying, what's the process? As you can see, it can be very confusing with different questions. So perhaps when you all have massaged your questions and then come back and forth, perhaps you need to come in and we can sit down with you and go through everyone's to make sure that we have everything in order. Because as I said, you're going to need to probably make those changes by a motion.
Well, I think part of the problem is like when I did my questions, all of a sudden something happened with the other question. I was using the first version, not the second version. So it got confusing on it. And there has to, I guess we're all feeling ourselves out.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
The staff is new, and I'm not trying to make the staff harder. I'm just trying to get it to where we can all know what's going on.
And we want to do that, and we're trying to do that as well. But what we have running in years past is sometimes council will ask questions, will respond, and then later when they get to the budget and adoption, they'll say, well, I thought that was in the budget. I talked about that.
Right.
But of course, you didn't, and you didn't. There was no motion, right? So that's why I'm saying you need to kind of organize it to make sure everybody's good with the list, whatever the list is.
So I haven't made the second reading, which is what you will get here shortly, for the Monday, the 16th meeting, nothing else has changed. I will not make another change until you tell me to, as Mr.
So on the
Fulton
6th,
said, in a resolution.
so the 11th, so on the 16th, we're going to, when we pass the motion to approve or disapprove, and then then we'll set the amendments there.
If they're ready, if not, they can wait. I mean, it's not done until it's done.
Our only constraint is June 30th,
That's right.
right? And 7 days prior to that, we have, is the second reading. So if we have our second reading on the 16th, we're good to go. If you were to postpone, it gets a little dicey. But June 30th is our drop dead date.
What I'm trying to say is how I'm trying to set up a procedure here. So when on the 16th,
16th,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
we'll come in and we'll approve or disapprove like that, right? But then we'll amend that budget in the motion, if there is an amendment to be made.
Yes, sir. If you have the public hearing, then you can do that. But you could, I'm not suggesting this, but you could have second reading after the benefit of the public hearing, and you could do that at third reading as well.
You can make amendments at third reading. It
Well,
often happens in budgets.
why we wait? There may be amendments on amendments, you know.
Well, I think the key here is the three of us get together with a list of our questions.
Yes.
Consolidate them, and that should be it.
I think if you consolidate them, and I think the best way to do that is if you would give them to the chairman, right? And the chairman, you can appropriately relay all of them. Then we can physically meet.
Throw me under the bus.
Well,
Throw me under the bus.
we could physically meet
No.
and go through it so that everybody is comfortable with the list, whatever the list is.
Okay.
Tell you the truth, if you could put it on a spreadsheet,
I could put it on a spreadsheet, mine would be
just so it's
easy.
much easier to do because it codified. I mean, it just you can adjust it and all
And I
that.
was able to add up what the total decreases, increases, and what the net, if you look at the bottom of what I sent you, it shows that, it's like 1.6 million, 1 million of that had already been taken out. So, so there was about 600,000 of changes in what you received on Sunday. But those have not been made in any official capacity into the actual worksheets.
Oh.
Seem to be going in the right direction.
Yeah, we are, but it's just it's really the problem is that I'm too new. We're in new territory. That's all I can say.
Well, we appreciate that. You're doing a Herculean job, quite frankly. And this budget, once it's to bed, it will not be perfect. They never are. And so we can start the process up, as you're saying, with routine updates, routine reviews of where we stand. And I think that this time next year, you'll be much more comfortable.
And we can the 30th is really just to set the budget, but we can right after that, we have another couple of weeks.
Yes, sir. As we discussed before, the school boards often have adjustments after June 30th, and you can have a chance to adjust things in the month of July and partial of August. So we get the bills out and things, but it should be really close.
And since we're here, the school board, right? How much can we just? How does that work? I mean, before we're just asking.
They do not have fiscal autonomy, right? You set the millage.
Our sole responsibility is to set the millage. We are in control of the millage. We're not in control of the line items directly.
They will come to you with a request for a millage, and you can approve it, you can decrease it, you can increase it. It's your preference.
Do they have a comeback if we decrease it?
I'm sorry, sir?
Do they have is there a procedure if we then don't like what we said?
They have, this has been litigated in Jasper County before, and we set the millage. We have the absolute responsibility to set the millage. They have this responsibility
To stick
set
with
the line
that.
items.
Yes.
You know, in budgeting, it's amazing. We do have that millage correction, right? But we also have the authority to ask for information and for reports.
Yes, sir. I mean, you have,
And so really, us asking if they're going to give us a report or a budget means we could say, don't ask, just tell them that this is what we want.
Yes, sir. And I would suggest you start thinking about that, because you'll have them as an audience and you can tell them exactly what you want going forward, and especially for the next year.
Well, I think that's what's all the constitutional officers, as long as we give them money, right, we can, not me, not us, but the administrator has the authority to ask for anything he wants as a report. You know, and then the funny thing about it is the treasurer has to give a monthly report to the school board, but not to us.
That's correct.
it's a weird system.
It's a weird system, you know, and I think I've talked to Bill Hager about that. You know, how can they not do that? And then he tells me the school board has a great deal of influence.
You have to understand that we are one of several school board systems in the state. There's several different methodologies that they have. You have independent school districts that have the ability to tax themselves in certain areas. Charleston is just getting rid of what they used to call the constituent school board, which is a very complex system. We have one of the more common systems where the county sets the millage, the school board determines the individual needs and makes the presentation. You have the oversight to determine whether that ask is too much or not enough or just right.
And one last thing for 2006, 2007, I think we have to separate all the fire districts.
We're working on that as a project at this point.
Yes, sir. That is a huge project. I think you're going to
Oh, I'm sure.
excited too.
I'm sure.
Okay, you mentioned about reporting. We sent the MOA between the administration and the treasurer's office to you a little while ago.
When did that come out?
Mr. Skinner did include in that MOA that he would provide a report to council quarterly.
Oh, okay. Thank you. When did that go out, the MOU? I haven't seen it.
I sent it this morning to you.
Oh, okay.
We finished it up last week, and so I sent it to you this morning.
So is it signed, or is it?
It's signed by all parties, and all the bank accounts have been settled, and it's, as far as we know, that's all complete.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Do I have a motion? Is there any discussion on adjournment? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise their right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Motion has passed. Thank you very much, everyone.